welcome to the UK, welcome to FrightFest.
Thanks.
How was it last night?
It was great.
Like finally meeting the UK FrightFest audience.
Well, I think that's what was so exciting. You know, when you make a film like this, you know, obviously you're making it for as many people as possible, but you're also, you know, we are genre fans who made it, and we're making it with particular interest for it to appeal to genre and horror fans, which I think are some of the most discerning film fans in the world.
Absolutely.
So to finally, you know, I've always wanted to go to FrightFest, as you know, and it's never quite worked out. So to finally meet a FrightFest audience with this film was a joy.
Cooties, tell us about Cooties for the folks that weren't at the screening
Sure.
yesterday. Just tell us in brief what they can expect when they see it.
Cooties is a horror comedy written by Lee Winnell, the creator of Saw and Insidious, and co-written by Ian Brennan, co-creator of Glee. So do with that what you will.
Okay.
It is a movie about a foodborne virus that only affects kids who haven't gone through puberty yet, and it turns them into savages. So it's effectively like an extrapolation on this notion of cooties in the States, and here there's sort of a similar thing, the notion of when you're young and you're prepubescent, you know, members of the opposite sex are gross to you, so it's like the germs that are spread between kids. And this is like literal germs turning them into zombies.
Sure. And tell us about your character, your role in the film.
Yeah, so I played Clint Hadson, who's an aspiring horror novelist, and a pretty bad one at that.
Have you ever tried writing?
No.
No?
I wrote short stories and poems, bad ones,
Right.
when I was a kid. And I really liked creative writing, and I kind of let it go. And as I've gotten older, I never really went back to it. So it's not a muscle that I've exercised, and I don't know that I trust myself as a writer. So I don't know.
And
if
you're
I'd
also
ever
a
do
supply teacher, aren't you, as well? That's the in the film, in Cooties.
He's a substitute teacher. You know, Clint has been living in New York. We find all this out in the context of the film, but Clint had been living in New York, trying his hand at writing. It didn't quite work out the way that he'd seen or had hoped. And he's back living with his mom, still working on this book. And he goes to substitute teach at the school that he actually attended when he was a kid. And so it's, you know, one of the themes of the film, interestingly enough, even though it's about, you know, zombie children and teachers trying to save themselves, it's also kind of about a group of people who all realize that the dreams they had for themselves in life didn't quite pan out. And everyone, to a certain degree, is sort of dealing with that. Clint, with his writing, you know, Wade had aspirations to be a successful football star. That didn't quite pan out. So everyone's kind of dealing with this sort of like, it's not a midlife crisis, but it's this sort of thing of like hitting your 30s and sort of realizing, shit, the dreams I had, I need to think about life in a different way.
Sure.
And that's all juxtaposed against the backdrop of killer children.
Yes, crazy comedy. You produced this film, didn't you? Tell us about Spectre Vision, your company.
Yeah, so Spectre Vision, I started with my friends Dan and Josh about 5 years ago. We met on another project, but quickly realized that we had a shared mutual appreciation for horror and genre, particularly the kinds of horror and genre that we felt weren't being made widely in the US at the time. There has since been an explosion. We're in a sort of almost renaissance for genre film, both domestically and internationally, which is really exciting. But our aim with the company was to just provide a space for the kinds of horror that we kind of grew up with and admired. The movies that sort of took their subject matter seriously, something like Rosemary's Baby. The 70s were rife with films like that.
Sure.
Don't Look Now, The Exorcist, all movies that, in some ways, if you remove the genre elements, you'd still have a compelling story. And that really inspired us. Even further back to the 40s with the movies that Val Lewton would produce, there was an artfulness to the process. And there was a belief in the beauty of genre. It's a funny thing, horror films, they often get relegated to this sort of B-grade status. People... You know, it leaves a bad taste in people's mouth because they think about horror from that one perspective. But we as horror fans know it's a wide spectrum, and it can be of the utmost quality and like the schlockiest shit, and we love it all.
Absolutely, from the good to the bad. So what can we look out for from the Spectre Vision label?
We've already produced A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. We've got Cooties. We have a movie called The Boy, which premiered at South by Southwest. We're doing a movie called Color Out of Space, which is an H.P. Lovecraft adaptation that Richard Stanley's going to direct for us. I know, I can't wait for that. To get a chance to work with Richard Stanley is a real treat. We have a movie called Bad Vibes, which is a sort of psychedelic werewolf film. That Ariel
Psychedelic
Pinks.
werewolves, can't wait.
I know, dude. We've got a lot. We're working with Panos Cosmatos, and we've got a bunch of other things that we're doing.
And tell us about the Rook co-production.
Oh, right, and
as
of
well.
course, Greasy Strangler, which I always fucking forget. It's in post-production right now.
The Greasy
How can I
Strangler.
forget? It's the craziest, weirdest fucking thing we'll ever do, I'm sure. The Greasy Strangler, it's Jim Hosking wrote and directed it. It is not easy to describe. It is about a killer, a serial killer, who covers his naked body in grease and strangles people to death. But it's really about a father and a son who still live together. A very troubled relationship there, and it's a sort of love triangle with this girl Janet that comes into the fold. It's disturbing. It's very funny. Super fucking weird. And it should be out sometime next year.
Sounds good. And apart from Cooties, what else can we look forward to seeing you starring in?
There's a movie called The Last Witch Hunter that's coming out in October with Vin Diesel. It's like a action and kind of fantasy film about witches that live amongst us and an immortal witch hunter that's killing off evil witches. And then there's a film that I shot earlier this year, a much smaller film called The Trust, which is a bank heist. Well, it's a heist movie with me and Nick Cage. He's
How was he? How was he?
incredible, totally incredible, vital, so excited to be working, constantly coming up with ideas. Like his mind never stops working. It was an absolute joy.
It's a bit like you, constantly coming up with ideas. Mind never stops working.
Well.
Acting, producing. we want you to direct some stuff.
I
next.
would love that too.
And please come to FrightFest
I will.
properly either next year or the year after.
I will. August would be awesome. We should try and make it happen.
Please. Thank you, Elijah.
Dude, Paul, thanks.